Real quick while I got you. First, if the president unalive them, he'll unalive you. If he'll slaughter millions of people anywhere in the world, he'll slaughter you. And so if you don't do anything, you are submitting to your own unaliving, okay? And then the third thing I want to say is everyone's like, I don't support this president. We don't support this. The American people don't support this. You're missing the boat, baby. We need you to move from not supporting to actively trying to stop. What does that look like? What do you propose? Mass demonstrations, mass strikes that aren't scheduled, don't end, and disrupt everything. White people being willing to be arrested in mass, putting their actual bodies on the line, abandoning comfort and convenience, depending on and developing mutual aid networks. That's what it's going to take. That's what it's going to take. You're dealing with a genocidal empire that's been genocidal since its origins. It's a master at it. It's its favorite thing. Best enterprise. It is how it believes it has established its dominance, its power, its prestige, its profits. It would rather you lose you, me, and everybody in this motherfucker, the whole fucking earth, than to give it up. It reminds me of when Spain was losing Cuba and America tried to intervene and be like, hey, Spain, just give up Cuba on some cool shit. Spain said, we'd rather see that bitch sink in the ocean. We'd rather see Cuba sink in the ocean before we gave it up. That's how the United States feel about genocide. And not just the United States, the Western powers in general. That's how they feel about genocide. They'd rather see this whole bitch sink than to give it up. So the mechanisms they've prescribed to you for your participation, your votes, are not going to disrupt that. They would give you that kind of access, friend. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to take the access they're not giving you. You're going to have to be in the streets. Not on no scheduled parades, just on a Saturday afternoon type shit. I don't do nothing else but this shit. We prepared to fill up the jails with this shit type shit. We would rather do that than to allow you to normalize slaughtering the entire species, friend, because I'm part of the species. And the thing you need to realize is that the people at the top, the tech bros, the ones Biden warned folks about on his farewell address, and you already know I don't fuck with Biden, but he said that shit on his farewell address. Tech bros are going to be in charge, and that's very dangerous. They don't give a fuck about whether or not humanity survives. Go look at that New Yorker piece about Sam Altman, about how the billions and billions that he's getting in government contracts to surveil us, and listen to the people who've worked with him in his inner circle talk about him. The quote that New York Magazine used, the New Yorker, used on its Instagram post from someone that was on the board at one point on OpenAI said, Sam possesses two traits you rarely see in a single human being. He is desperately in need for people's attention, for people's approval. He's a people pleaser. And simultaneously does not give a fuck about anybody else or their well-being, has a complete disregard for the well-being of others. Those two things are defining features of white supremacy. Whiteness, supremacy at large, requires you to elevate yourself above humanity. This is also why the U.S. is disconnected from the rest of the world, because the way we're socialized, U.S. exceptionalism, the way we're taught about the U.S., disconnects us from the rest of humanity. Makes us think we're special, does not socialize us into the humanity of the rest of the world, especially the non-Western world. So it's hard to connect with their suffering on a visceral level, because that's what supremacy does to you. That's what American supremacy does. That's what white supremacy does. That's what male supremacy does. That's why the male loneliness epidemic is an epidemic, while they threatened women with loneliness, being lonely cat women, if they didn't learn to obey, be attractive, look like they were 14 for their whole life, be master chefs, master porns. You know what I'm saying? Right? Supremacy disconnects you that way. That disconnection makes you thirsty for connection, which is why it wasn't surprising to me that Sam Altman was a people pleaser. Simultaneously, that disconnection also dehumanizes the people you're disconnected from, which means you don't have the same visceral connection to their well-being. Yes, which is why supremacists can commit the kind of dehumanization, mass violence. Supremacists being male supremacists being American supremacy being white supremacy. It can foster that kind of violence because it's disconnected. So you definitely need to connect with the rest of the world. Tap into international news sources. Tap into international communities on the ground telling you what's happening. Disconnect from whatever psychological socialization has made you believe this shit won't happen here. Because the people you think you're disconnected from in the third world, them people at the top, the political and economic elites, are disconnected as fuck from you and don't give a fuck about your well-being. We got to snap out of it, baby. Otherwise, you've submitted to the worst fates.